Shalom. So I am going to try very hard not to do the um, Rachel Maddow thing of like telling a long story and being all clickbaity. So to explain how this stream came to be, um, in the beginning, I was just going to do a just chatting stream. And that's where the thumbnail came to be. But I thought the thumbnail actually worked pretty well. So this is the latest cringy video that the Democrats are self-imploding with. And I was going to talk about this. So here you go. I saw this. So, well, I have to say, this is the type of cringe you love to see. Okay. Now, as far as answering the question about why is Protestant theology so bad, this is number 4 in my series, and the simple answer is Protestant theology is necessarily bad because, yes, I know it's a TikTok trend and I know it's a video game reference, but it's also incredibly cringe for Congress people to like do that, and the way they did it was bad. Yes, thank you. Very, very cringe. I'm not that much of a boomer. In fact, I'm not a boomer at all. Okay, so the answer why Protestant theology is so bad and necessarily is so bad, and I have done this in every single one of my "Why is Protestant theology so bad" video. It's because you have one person, usually a very smart person, but I have to say, this one, Pete, I warned you. I warned you. I just tried. Like, I almost feel bad about being mean. Almost. Like the other ones I've done, Paul Vanderklay and Douglas Wilson and Mike Winger, really, really smart people. But, and then now this with Pete. And it doesn't matter how smart you are one individual. And you're one individual trying to do theology by yourself. That is what makes it Protestant, and that's what makes it bad. And even if you claim, obviously, in order to, if you're not a complete idiot, you're not going to you are actually going to look at a large number of older sources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you need to think with other people. You need other people around you. And frankly, I think the smartest Protestants, including Mike Winger, Paul Vanderklay, and Douglas Wilson, don't really just do it by themselves, but they end up making these horrible mistakes because they are too individualistic. They don't bother to actually talk to other people. Now, in order to prevent this from becoming a Bulverism, so a Bulverism is when you explain why someone is wrong without explaining that that person is wrong, right? Which is a bad thing to do because, just because there is a reason for that person to be wrong doesn't mean that that person is wrong, right? And second, distributed cognition is incredibly important. Why is it people only show up? Like Tayo, Gabriel, people show up for these streams. And frankly, these are the streams that I try not to do and I don't like doing, but they always tend to be my most popular videos as well. So it took it's in the description. It took 3 strikes for me to make this video. I was not going to make this video because, frankly, I mean, here, I'll read you from one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. I try to take my directions from the Bible. This is Proverbs 26, or the foolishness chapter, which it's many of the Proverbs I end up quoting from the Bible come from this chapter. So let's just read the chapter, and then we'll get into strange theology. You kind of named it yourself, Pete. I'm sorry, but you did. Okay. This is the word of the Lord, as the Protestants like to say. As snow in summer and as rain in harvest, so honor is not seemly for a fool. Like a wandering sparrow, like a flying swallow, so a curse that is causeless comes home to roost. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the ass, and a rod for the fool's back. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest thou become like him thyself. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. Remember this one, because in addition to being in the outro to my things, it's actually the reason why I try not to make too many of these videos, and yet I do make these videos. There's the internet just ends up with a lot of people who say things that are so stupid. Like you can try to answer them and you become like them, or you can just ignore them and then they become wise in their own conceit. He that sends a message by the hand of a fool cuts off his own feet and drinks its in damage. Like the legs of a lame man which hang useless, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. As one who binds a stone in a sling, so is he that gives honor to a fool. Like a thorn that goes up into the hand of a drunkard, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. A master craftsman performs everything, but he who hires a fool is as he who hires the passerby. As a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool returns to his folly. That's another one. Seest thou a man wise in his own eyes? There's more hope of a fool than of him. Chatati aviti pashati. The lazy man says there is a lion in the way. A lion is in the streets. It's also true. As the doors turns on its hinges, so does the slothful upon his bed. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish. It grieves him to bring it back to his mouth. The sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men that give sensible reasons. He who passes by and meddles with a strife, not his own, is like one who takes a dog by the ears. As a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death, so is a man who tricks his neighbor and says, "But I was only joking." There is no wood, where no wood is, there the fire goes out. So where there is no talebearer, strife ceases. As coals are to burning coals, and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. The words of a talebearer are like dainties, and they go down into the innermost parts of the body. Burning lips and a wicked heart are like an earthenware dish covered with silver dross. He who hates dissembles with his lips and lays up deceit within him. When he speaks fair, do not believe him, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. He whose hatred is covered by deceit, his wickedness shall be revealed before the whole congregation. The one who digs a pit shall fall into it, and if one rolls a stone, it will return upon him. A lying tongue hates its victims, and a flattering mouth works ruins. Yeah, thus says the word of the Lord. Now, to explain what I'm doing here, I said to Pete, after he said he was going to, don't make me tap the sign, I said, I didn't bother to respond to that video because some things are too stupid to nuke from outer space. Don't tempt me. And he responded in typical meme culture with this meme. I didn't respond. Are you guys seeing this? You guys are seeing this? You guys are seeing this. Fight Club is popular. It is that. I didn't respond because that video is too stupid. Be honest. It is too stupid. Be honest. I am too stupid. Thank you. And I said, okay, you asked for it. So Pete made this video, which he started with me, obviously. And it's incredibly dumb. And I will explain why it's incredibly dumb. I will explain that. But there's a level of stupidity which, like, do you even bother to fix it? Do you even bother to fix it? And, like, that's a real question you have to ask yourself. That is a real question you actually have to ask yourself. This is so wrong in so many ways. Do I even bother? Did I comment on this? I did. It would be much better if you were willing to have a live and forthcoming discussion. In my experience, you are very unwilling to simply have a dialogue. And the fact it has devolved into back and forth of videos is proof of it. You're welcome to come on one of my streams and have the discussion. And I've tried to have this discussion with Pete several times. I have invited him on my channel. I believe I pinned the StreamYard link here. I have tried to privately talk to him. The fact is that Pete hates God. And he hates Jesus too. And those are two different things, Pete, even if you didn't know it. But you hate God for the same reason you hate Jesus. Because you don't understand what love is. Because you think that love is about what you want and what you feel. Whereas true love is about the beloved. Again, true love is about the beloved. Somebody who loves God, wants to know God, wants to understand God, wants to do what God wants. It's about their relationship with God, not about themselves. And similarly, Christianity, I sincerely believe, is a step up from being a rank idolater like many pagans were, right? I am glad that Christians are not as idolatrous as even Hindus are in most ways. And they're certainly not as bad as like the Roman pagans, et cetera, were. And I thank God for Christianity in that way. But it's an obvious step down from Judaism. It's an obvious step down from an actual love of God and from understanding what God wishes to teach us in his Bible. And to the degree that someone wants to understand that, and someone wants to understand Judaism and wants to understand Jesus better, I will gladly help them. And in fact, that's what my channel generally has been about. And frankly, I have to say, despite your goading over and over again, I wouldn't have made this if there wasn't a broader discussion being had in the culture about whether or not Jesus is a Jew. Now, frankly, I think a lot of people like Father Eric and Father Stephen are simply not addressing this, and neither even I think is Paul Vanderklay, because it just seems so stupid, and it is so stupid. So to get to the crux of the video, it was months ago, and frankly, I have seen so many of these stupid videos. Pardon me if I don't remember completely exactly. If I don't remember exactly the points, but Pete has fallen into this thing of making a distinction between Judean and Jew, the word Judean and Jew. So I am not calling Pete a Nazi at all. Pete is not smart enough for me to call him a Nazi. If he actually had done any of his research, he would have realized that what he was spouting was from positive Christianity. And you can go look back at positive Christianity and the type of scholarship that led to positive Christianity and the Reichskirche. I think, pardon me if I said that wrong. I'm not a big thing of I'm not a great scholar of German, but this is a common positive Christianity talking point that he's fallen for, right? Making a distinction between Jews and Judaism and Judea as the place as opposed to Galilee, right? And this actually it's more popular in Protestant circles than really it should be, but we fall into this problem of a lot of Protestants being Lutheran, positive Christianity coming out of Lutheranism. Okay, so to clarify, for Teo's sake, what it means to be too dumb to be a Nazi, right? There are people who, so think of it kind of like Elon and that Roman salute, right? The question is, did Elon actually know he was making a symbol that he was making a sign that people would think was reminiscent of a Nazi salute as opposed to just giving your heart out? Or was he just so autistic that he didn't really realize in the moment, right? So there's a level of premeditation that it requires to do something so stupid, right? Like, well, I mean, as to be offensive, right? Let's put it this way. I hope Pete has never heard of positive Christianity. I'm guessing he's never heard of positive Christianity. I'm guessing most of positive Christianity would in fact be something that Pete finds abhorrent, but he very much wants Jesus to be what he wants Jesus to be. So it's not about paying attention to God and paying attention to Jesus, who he believes represents God. And I have to say, like I have said many times before, if your definition of Christian is someone who follows the teachings of Jesus, then the only Christians I know are Orthodox Jews, and it's true. I sincerely believe that. So, like, I've been incredibly positive in ways you guys don't even understand, I have encouraged, uh, very funny, Michael. I have, although that's another thing. I'm guessing, like that's another thing. The nomina sacra is another thing that it's kind of funny with Protestants, but the when it I have been very, very encouraging of Christians getting to understand Jesus better, wanting to understand Jesus better, wanting to know more about Jesus. Because the more a Christian knows about Jesus, and a Christian who actually loves Jesus, right, would want to be more like Jesus, would want to understand Jesus better. And just like you get exactly the people who are going away from that are precisely the people who they're the ones who will say, well, Jesus wasn't speaking to us in that particular place. Like Mike Winger in my first why is Protestant theology so bad? He's like, Jesus was talking to other people, right? And it's not a true love of Jesus, right? To be like that. You can tell these people they want what they want. Oh no, I actually was like this stream was McMo. This stream was originally about culture war wins, but Pete just had to goad me, and it was like, okay, here we go. Anyway, so this idea of Judean being different from, like, first of all, the Hebrew Bible uses the same word, right? A Yehudi, Ish Yehudi, right? In the book of Esther, right? It says that I think it's from the tribe of Benjamin, calls him from Mordecai was of the tribe of Benjamin, a Judite, a Jew, right? So, like, if you actually know the original languages, including the Greek, right? And there in the book of Esther, there are people mityahadim, right? It's to be a Jew is used as a verb in the book of Esther, right? Mityahadim, they were Judaizing, they were becoming Jews, right? So this distinction, it's just bad. This whole McMo, stop trolling. And if somebody wants to join, they can. Because I hate talking. Wow, the ultimate troll of trolls, YawnGod.
I heard about the Septuagint. I'm here to learn.
What did you hear about the Septuagint?
Oh, it's Mark. Mark wrote a comment. How do you feel about the Septuagint?
Oh, well, first I have to say it's the Septuagints, because there's no one Septuagint. I hate to tell you that. Second, as Father Stephen likes to point out, and I completely agree with, the term Septuagint only refers to the Greek translation of the 5 books of Moses, not the rest of the Bible. So, hate to tell you that. And then, if you actually know Hebrew and Greek, the Septuagint is hilariously bad, my friends. So, what can I tell you? Is that why you jumped on, actually? You're quite
I'm just here to make you company until someone else arrives.
How you never jump on? I'm happy to see you.
I'm in a good mood.
You're in a good mood. Why are you in a good mood?
You're not my priest.
I didn't say you were I was your priest. I'm asking how you are. What made you decide to come on? What would you like to share with us? I would like to get to know you better, YawnGod.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
I don't know. I think we disagree on too much. You know, you believe that God created the universe, and I believe the universe is static and eternal. And those are two starting points that are not
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold
reconcilable.
on, hold on. You actually believe the universe is static and eternal? You don't believe that the universe has that there was a great bang, that the world came into being?
No.
How's that? Explain. Like even the cosmologists have given up on the on making fun of the Big Bang. Steady state theory hasn't been a thing for 100 years, my friend.
You know, that's okay. But seriously, it has to do with orders of magnitude. And
Okay.
at some point, they'll figure it out. But right now, uh, the current science has a lot of inertia, and it's going to take a while for that giant mass to be kind of altered. So for a while, it's going to be relativity and this sort of thing. But at some point, basically, electric universe is going to take over, and that's going to
Electric
add.
universe.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what it is.
So I'm guessing you're referring to the stuff that Brian Keating was talking with Avi Loeb and Eric Weinstein about.
No, electric universe is a little bit more.
Well, no.
Fri-
I mean that, but as far as physics and academia stalling.
I think Eric is generally correct, and there's just a useful heuristic, which is if someone has a permanent smile, you shouldn't believe them. And Avi is constantly smiling. He cannot not smile, and so it's you shouldn't listen to him.
I have my doubts about Avi Loeb. I do. Although he is the one who convinced me that um, I don't think you can scientifically. You may, for theological reasons, not believe that there's extraterrestrial intelligence, but there's no scientific basis for a belief that there's no extraterrestrial intelligence.
I think if you start thinking that aliens are real,
Mm-hmm.
you enter into a problem of uh, it's like a scapegoating your problems. It's very similar to believing in angels and believing in all this stuff, but the problem is you have
I do believe in
chronological.
angels.
Well, yeah, but it has to do with chronological order. So angels already exist. An angel just means messenger, and you can play with that as much as you want. But aliens, as in living things from other planets, if you start entertaining that, that's very dangerous, in my opinion. So I think Avi Loeb is doing very dangerous things by allowing anyone to think that aliens exist, because what helps humans survive is the idea that we are alone in this universe and there's no one to help us. And then we call out to some higher power for help without
Mm-hmm.
actually believing that the miracle will happen. Otherwise, everyone would believe the miracle will happen for them. So the whole point is that 99% beg for miracles and 1% get those granted. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, if you start uh, convincing in a secular way that aliens are real, and you start putting money into trying to find things that don't actually exist, I mean, this is very harmful. But
Well, if those things don't exist, I agree with you. Have you heard my third temple theory?
I have not.
Oh, you're gonna love this one. And no, YawnGod is definitely not Pete. YawnGod is much, much, much more intelligent than Pete. Um, So the and well read. So I have to preface this with I don't actually believe that this is true. I believe that if this were true, it would be both within um, within the possibility of normal of where science is now, and it would in no way change my religious beliefs. Okay? So I'm not saying that I believe it is true. I'm just saying that this is one way in which my religious beliefs and our current beliefs in science could end up interacting, which would in no way make me change either my beliefs, my scientific beliefs, or my theological beliefs. Okay? Is the distinction there like clear in your mind at least?
You may continue. You may proceed.
Okay. Because people accuse me of actually believing this, and I don't actually believe this. So if any minute now a UFO lands on the Temple Mount in the shape of Ezekiel's temple, and biblically accurate angels come out of it and say, we are the angels who brought the Bible to you in order for you to understand what's going to be when we arrive, that would in no way change my theology at all.
I get it.
You get it? What do you think of it?
I think you would have an expectation in a way. This is me imagining your imagined hypothetical. Is that it's if one of those angels were to walk up to you and you were to say that to the angel, you would expect the angel to say, "Good job." Did that make sense?
Yes. I do believe that if that scenario were to actually happen, the angels would account me among those who actually got the message.
You know, the algorithm recommended a video to me because one of the first, I just remember. So there's this rabbi that I saw that she made a video about. I forgot the guy's name. I guess I could look it up.
That
But
guy?
it was no. This is a guy you don't like. He's basically a charlatan, and he was selling stuff on the internet. And
What's his name? Yeah, I know who you're
we
talking
don't
about.
need to know his name. But the point
Yeah.
is that he was one of the first Jewish channels that banned me when I was in his chat. And I was reading your comments. I was reading the comments on your video about that, and someone made a comment about how they were questioning your Jewishness because you don't wear the yarmulke or the kippah or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And it is that logic that you just gave me that is why you don't wear it. It's because you know that when the time comes, they will have that in account. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to see.
Explain that. I'm not
Well,
understanding.
because it's like you don't have to have your head covered to have your head covered. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't have to present it if it's like if your head is covered in your heart, that's what matters. And so
Okay, so it's beyond that. There's a concept. There's a Jewish concept called Yuhara, which um, which the Orthodox Jews on the internet generally, I mean, Yosef cares about it. Chazi cares about it, and I care about it. And very few other Orthodox Jews, except for the actual like real Orthodox Jews. There are actual Jewish channels other than mine on YouTube, but generally, like a lot of people have never heard of Yuhara, and Yuhara is the prohibition of presenting yourself as being more righteous than you are, which, you know, some people, Christians maybe, might call being a Pharisee. So there is an actual prohibition within rabbinic Judaism of presenting yourself as better, or, you know, etc., than you actually are.
I'm mad no one came on to save me because I'm still here. I mean, I was expecting someone else to jump on so I could jump off. I mean, you guys are letting me down, chat. What the
And there's a bunch of people watching. I don't know why people watch these streams. I would prefer, you know, last night I should have done my not Jonah. What's the name of the book I'm doing? What's the name of the book I'm doing? Job. I'm like behind on my Job streams, but like nobody watches my Job streams. Like my Job streams, 0 people jump on, 0 people in the chat, 0 people. Like I would rather be doing a Job stream. But these streams, when I get goaded into like doing a fire and brimstone dunk on this guy stream, I get YawnGod showing up. Like how is this fair? This is not fair.
I'm not even a believer, man.
You must be Satan. You are a work of Satan trying to entice me to do these dunk on destroy with facts and logic streams. Is that why you're here, YawnGod? You actually like me doing these types of streams?
Well, technically, I was thinking this was going to be more political, because of course that's how this stream was going to start, was this kind of like making fun of the Dems, which I wasn't even going to talk about making fun. I was going to talk about the mental illness. This is serious. This is mental illness. But
that was the other video I was going to make. That was the other video. So I was listening to Jon Favreau. You know who that is? The Pod Save America guy. He has a stream, and I've been intensely watching the Democrats to see where they're going to end up, because who knows where they're going to end up. They have no idea how to. I can't believe they still haven't figured out a game plan how to deal with what's going on, but they haven't. Anyway, like half the stream was them talking about their mental health and like how they weren't going to doom scroll, and they weren't going to. And it reminded me of Anna Kasparian. You know, Anna Kasparian said that one of the reasons she's not so far left anymore is because she's in therapy.
I didn't know about the therapy part.
She's in therapy. And I sincerely believe this. I mean, the fact is it's true on both sides. People, like, you have to be a little bit misaligned as a human being in your relevance realization, at least a little bit, to be too much into politics, which is why I try to like limit my political thing to something reasonable. But like there are definitely emotional, like the breakdowns people are having. I genuinely feel sorry for them. Like, did you see this big account was, well, it actually happened twice. There were 2 big accounts which were like making fun of the one of them was making fun of the little kid with cancer, and the other one was making fun of the girl who got hit in the head with the volleyball. Actually, three of them. Like it's they've started becoming really cruel and deranged.
It can. I mean, the summary of this is Trump bad. Anything Trump does, we must be against it. So if Trump likes kittens, kittens are bad. If Trump likes
Kill the kittens.
Anything, so and this is what kind of convinces me that it's actually a kind of mental illness. And when they were talking, I forget the guy's name, but mass formation. This is the real mass formation, because it's almost like you have to keep things simple. And the easiest, it has to do with the mass formation regarding simple sentences like Trump bad, or Putin bad, or Ukraine, save Ukraine for democracy. And you have these little phrases that just they cannot escape from them. And that's basically, in a way, a sign of mental illness, is that they cannot, I don't want to say deal with reality, because that's a I don't know. It's kind of mind-blowing how they cannot sense that the winds are changing. And you would think, in the time of the internet and all this free information, that they could change their minds. And so this is why I have to go to that it's mental illness, because this is not about arguments or data. This is about, I don't know, ignoring data. This is really cult stuff. And but cult is almost too nice. I think it's just more mental illness.
Well,
it's probably,
okay, so
we're underestimating how much the petrochemical industry, the joke of making the frogs gay, it's that you also become retarded. I swear it must be something like this, because it's
okay,
I mean,
I have to disagree with the last part, because the Flynn effect really is a thing. And we are in fact becoming smarter and smarter. But John Vervaeke helped me understand this better. And so what cognitive scientists have figured out is it's wrong the way we imagine the world, that we take in information from the world and build a model of the world in our mind. It's actually the other way around. We have a model of the world in our mind, and we just test it. And if the model is too wrong, then we become very anxious and depressed. And I think that is what's going on for a lot of people. They have this model of the world. The model of the world does not match up with what they see, and they don't have a different model to switch to. And so they keep on going back and being like, no, this must not be true. I mean, I try very hard. If anybody, very few people actually pay attention to my Twitter, but if anybody does, one of the things I try to do is I try to anticipate what's going to happen before it happens, and actually tweet out about it. This is going to happen. And if it does or does not happen, I go back, and every once in a while, I go back and I look at this stuff, and I'm like, hey, I thought this was going to happen. It didn't happen. I thought this was going to happen. It did happen. And I think that's really important, because that's the essence of the scientific method. And I believe, I'm an empiricist. I really do believe in the scientific method, right? You try to understand things as best you can. You have a hypothesis and then you test the hypothesis. But too many people don't. The people who say believe in science don't believe in science.
Oh man, I had a wake up call to myself that scientism was real. I didn't, as a scientist, I didn't believe scientism was a thing. But then you realize, oh my God, there are NPC scientists, and that's what scientism ends up being. And you cannot, the philosophical zombie, the P zombie, is real, and is real as Israel. I'm sorry.
No,
You see, that's
you love word plays, which is why I think you need to have children. Because if you were to have children, you would be such a happier person. I really do think you would be a much happier person. Rod apparently thinks Wax Fang is your music. I've never heard of Wax Fang. Is it your music?
I recommended that band at some point. I remember typing it in the chat to someone. Maybe it was Roderick, but I'm not unfamiliar with someone writing this. Yes, I did recommend that band at some point on the chat.
And I have to say, did you just dox yourself? Are you actually a scientist? Because everybody wants to know more about YawnGod.
I say I'm a scientist, but in this zeitgeist of gatekeeping, where are you a scientist if you have a master's? Are you a scientist if you have a PhD? Are you a scientist if you have a postdoc grant?
Fellowship? Yeah.
Are you a scientist? Yes, exactly. So you start to enter this whole hierarchy of I have more citations and more diplomas than you do, and then everyone loses. So
okay. So this was actually one of the things on Twitter that I was complaining about Protestantism about. This idea that credentials shouldn't matter, I think, is very Protestant. The credentials should matter, but they need to be credible credentials, right? So the word credential comes from credo, to believe, right? And so if it's a credential that's actually credible, right? If it's something that actually says, hey, this person achieved something and I can believe that this person knows something. A PhD, for example, Dr. Shara, one of our locals here, he has a PhD in economics from George Mason University. That's a credential I have belief in. I'm like, hey, that was hard to do. And if you didn't know a bunch of stuff, I don't think you would get that credential.
So there's a thing in math, which is the genealogy of your supervisor. And many, persons in the field, they like to track who their supervisor was, because eventually it goes back to Bernoulli and Euler. And so it's like you can say, oh man, I'm a descendant of Euler. I'm a descendant of Bernoulli. And that's cute. I actually, in my own field, I've had persons say that, like regarding Pasteur, like, oh, I was taught by a student of Pasteur and blah blah blah. So this genealogy thing in the sciences is a real thing, and that is actually one of the problems, because
Really?
once a mistake enters what's called the literature,
Right.
it's very difficult to get that mistake out.
Right.
So sometimes I like reading old. For example, Euler. I joke that I don't like Euler. I think Euler could have been a mistake. And so even though Euler had interesting contributions to math, I think he kind of blinded many avenues that could have been explored. And it's interesting to read contemporaries of Euler criticize him. because you realize he's just a dude. He's just a dude who was able to publish. And there are so many other persons that may know as much or from different angles. For example, Boscovich. I will just say Boscovich just because everyone likes citations, so I'm just going to drop the name. But I think Boscovich is one of the more interesting, polymaths of the past. And if Boscovich were the Euler, it's very possible that modern physics would be different. But it just so happened that Euler became famous, and then Newton became famous. Or not sure of the timeline here, but my point is just that it's a lot of luck. It's a lot of luck. It's a lot of who you know, and you just have to deal with how it happened. So this is just to say that I'm very much aware of the problem of once something enters into the literature and you want to challenge it, you're a nobody. And not only are you a nobody, there are going to be 10 other persons who are going to try to support it. So now you have to fight these 10 other persons plus the guy who made the assertion. And so basically this is why academia is going to collapse. And just like the Democrats, they're going to be surprised. They're going to be like, I don't understand. Why is everyone look at all these pseudoscientists? It's all pseudo. And they're going to be as insane as the Democrats are right now, but it's going to be in the scientific world. So,
What do you think of my dear friend Eric Weinstein? Do you listen to him much?
I listen to every single thing I possibly can.
Of him?
Of course. I've listened to every single thing he's said.
Interesting. Really?
I do my best.
So, did you hear when he gave me a shout out on the portal?
Oh, no, I did not. I wouldn't have known it was you. So how long ago was this?
It was on the portal back when the portal was still going.
Yeah,
he gave me and Sally a shout out, and several other people.
Do you remember which episode?
Which episode?
Who was the guest?
One of the episodes at the beginning of it, he talked about his Discord server, and he said people like, and he named Sally and he named me, and it was like, yay! Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan and supporter of Eric, and he bought me a beer once, and so for the rest of his life, I'm going to call him one of my friends, despite the fact we barely ever have any contact anymore. But yeah, Eric Weinstein is one of my heroes.
There's a lot I could say, but
who are your heroes, Jan? I want to hear who your heroes are. You have to have heroes.
I'm thinking, do I make jokes? Am I serious?
You always make jokes and you're serious. That's what we love about you.
Don't butter me up.
You have been watching me enough to know that I don't actually flatter people. If I thought you were an idiot, I would tell you.
I mean, I'm going to have to say, this is very stupid. This is a very stupid answer. But in a way, my hero, in a way, is my father.
That's not stupid at all. That's great. That's beautiful.
Yeah, but, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
No, that's actually really beautiful. And somebody who
are you sure? Are you sure it's beautiful? Because the point is that I didn't. It's like the joke would be that I didn't realize my father was a conspiracy theorist this whole time. I didn't. I wasn't aware. When you're a kid, you don't know. You don't really understand what they're saying. But I got. I remember when he gave me the lecture on the dollar, and he was explaining. Novus Ordo Seclorum. He was explaining the I. And at the time I was thinking, oh, this is normal. Yeah, this is what kids learn. And Only way later in life, way later, did I realize, oh my God, I was raised by basically an Alex Jones, and I didn't even realize it. It was amazing. So right now, in this state of the world, I am ready. My father prepared me for this, and it was mind blowing, mind blowing.
Okay, so Trey usually links the dumbest content in the world on the Discord, but he linked one thing which was really eye-opening for me, which was a video that this crazy leftist YouTuber made, like some bread tube like person, what about Santa Claus and how parents, like, it's normal for societies to have something like Santa Claus, which it acts as a kind of rite of initiation for children to understand, oh, this is a foolish, childish thing that people lie to you about, and to have the necessary cynicism and skepticism as an adult. And when I was a kid, so whenever I would ask my dad to spell something, he would spell it for me, but then he would start adding extra letters at the end until and he would just keep on going until I figured out, like, because I would be sitting there writing, right? So I would ask him, how do you spell butter, right? And he would say BUTTERROUGH, right? And so that I would have to recognize, oh, okay, it stops here. And he was doing that because he was like, no, I don't want you just listening to what I say and writing down exactly. I want you to have some degree of critical thinking.
That's cool.
Yeah. So when are you going to have kids?
These are inappropriate questions.
Why is it inappropriate? You can answer whenever you want. You could say never if you never want to have kids. You could say never.
If it happens, it happens. That's how it works.
Did you? I'm guessing you've seen Idiocracy.
Of course.
There's a reason why I try to get smart people to have kids.
Just to play off that, I sometimes remind myself that Newton died a virgin. And I think about that. I'm like, man, Newton died a virgin. What does that even mean?
Yeah, but you live with your girlfriend, so that's not the problem.
Yes, that's correct. But still.
If you need help,
I need help with someone else from the chat joining the thing so I can leave and do something else for 10 minutes. All right. I mean, come on, guys.
Gabriel has like 10 kids.
I mean, who is Gabriel?
Gabriel, he has 4 kids, but yeah, I was thinking. See, everybody's so excited you showed up. People love you. So Gabriel was one of the first people. He may be the only person I've had a long discussion with, and we just agreed about everything. It's very rare for me to agree with someone on pretty much everything. And
I think, he Jewish?
No, he's not.
So not everything.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't discuss stuff we disagree about. He's certainly a lot more agreeable than I am. Although I was surprised to find out. So agreeableness gets split into 2: politeness and something else. And I actually have a middling agreeable score because I'm very low in politeness and very high in the other thing. I think it was empathy or something. So I'm very high in empathy and I'm very low in politeness. So that's why I end up being, I'm actually kind of agreeable. Can you believe that?
Yes. There's also a joke, which is, it's kind of like, there was a joke about Monty Python, which is something like 90% out of 100 persons that watch Monty Python, 90 of them might not like it, and 10 of them will be fans forever. And I think that somehow applies to you, where it's like the persons that are not against you will be your allies, more or less. This is how you can get away with saying I'm not part of TLC, and then you're always around TLC stuff. Something like this. It's like you've got a charm, Jacob.
Yeah, the first time somebody said to me, Jacob, you're very charismatic, I was like, what? What are you talking about? But yeah, I have a certain charm to me. Yeah, I do.
I have to go for like half an hour. So
because your girlfriend is like, get off that stupid computer.
That is correct. You are correct. Yes, okay. I will be back in half an hour.
And she better be pregnant. She better be pregnant by the time you get back.
That's the plan.
Good job. Good job. Get to it.
Okay.
I approve.
See you in a bit. Okay.
I could kind of sort of hear his girlfriend behind him. Wow, we have Michael. Hello, Michael.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. I love YawnGod. I actually wish I could schedule a time for him to come on and we could just talk.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him on anything ever anywhere.
He's been on, the first time he came on was one of David's Bible studies. And so he despite the fact he says he's not he's not religious, he actually knows a lot of Greek.
Interesting.
Yeah. Hello, David J. Busatil, if that really is your name.
It'd be a weird one to make up, right?
What does the J stand for?
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
In the Bible, David and Jonathan were so close that they were like one man, and I am like one man.
Oh, that's a cute kitty. That's not your normal kitty. Your normal kitty is much larger.
I got two. I got the tiny one who is silly, and the big one who is Humphrey. You're thinking of Humphrey, the very large tuxedo cat.
Yes, that cat is huge. Okay, are we actually going to talk about the topic of this of the stream at all?
No. I came on just to give a hello. I felt bad that you were on your own, but I didn't want to jump on because then I knew Yanni would run away.
Seriously,
he is like a bird in the hand, gentle. You must be gentle, otherwise he'll run off to make another album.
I mean, I did want to talk about the vibe shift. The only time Prophet Zacharias has been on my channel that I can remember was when we broadcast live together. We were at a Starbucks, I think.
Yeah. Also, now seeing that Michael is here, I'll let you guys have the conversation, because I also wanted to say that the real purpose of the Bible study has, I think, officially succeeded in that Joseph is now, I think, constructing his work week around it. So this was like, he wasn't even sick. He was just there because he was excited.
Your whole point is to keep him from actually finishing his dissertation. I get it. I get it. You're just trying to make him finish his dissertation. Okay, just to explain very briefly what Pete did. He was a Protestant. Does that explain it? So he has this whole thing where he's like saying translating Jesus is a Jew is a bad translation. You should actually say Jesus is a Judean, because it causes people to think of Judaism, and Jesus has no connection with modern day Judaism.
Okay.
I mean, this is like, and I haven't actually watched, like, I try not to watch Rampant Stupidity. That one particular one I watched because I kind of had to, but he did another one which I linked, where he was talking about Kim Iverson, and I was gonna play that, and yeah, Jesus.
Are you really the last person to
Jesus the Judean, the Judean debate
find out about
with
the skip
Kim
ads forever
Iverson,
button? This is Pi, and if it
apostate-
sounds familiar to you, it's probably because
apostate
Michael Jones.
prophet, and inspiring philosophy. I haven't even watched this video, but like, oh my god, like I was gonna listen to this and comment on it, but like, so much stupidity going on with this Jesus and as a Jew debate. Like, I really wasn't gonna say anything, but he was goading me. So what was I gonna do?
Well, there is. I'm always very interested in what people have in mind with some of their terms, because I think what a lot of people are getting at is that, and I think it's what amount things have shifted. Jacob, you believe that essentially first century Judaism is identical to Judaism right now.
Yeah. Okay. So the whole thing does go back to Geza Vermesh's book, Jesus the Jew, right? And to the surprise of tons and tons of people, I'm pretty sure he wrote that book before the Holocaust, or he may have written it after the Holocaust. But it's a collection from works that started being published before the Holocaust, right? And yes, it did get picked up because of the Holocaust. Like, people started rethinking things because of the Holocaust. But especially with the Dead Sea Scrolls and Geza Vermesh, he was initially mostly known for his English translation of the Dead Sea Scrolls. I seriously believe that the Dead Sea Scrolls are the most obviously miraculous revelation of God certainly in the 20th century. I don't see how a believing Jew or Christian could look at the Dead Sea Scrolls and not go, this is miraculous.
Yeah.
Right? And the Dead Sea Scrolls have very surprisingly led to Christianity having to revise a lot of their beliefs. And surprisingly to me, and I've said this a lot of times, Michael, come on, even the Eastern Orthodox have certainly, there were people who were still arguing Septuagint primacy until the Dead Sea Scrolls.
You'll still find them every now and then.
Yeah, but they tend to be Protestants these days. It's very rare. If it's somebody Eastern Orthodox, they just haven't gotten the memo.
So the only thing I'd add to that is changing particulars like that I don't see where that has an effect on epistis if that we were to take that as belief.
Where it does is look. There's a reason why I started my channel with, and the focus of my channel continues to be teaching people Hebrew, because ultimately, regardless whether you're Jewish or Christian and what type of Christian, ultimately it goes back to, hey, yes, sola scriptura, in that we believe, and I think everyone believes, the scripture is what corrects our missteps in faith. And that includes Christians, including Orthodox Christians. You go back to the text.
I mean, we might say that it's one of many things that should course correct.
Right. But it's definitely there. And part of the problem is the fights over, well, what is the text, right?
Yeah.
Does Psalm 22 verse 1, does Jesus say, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, why have you
Forsaken me.
forsaken me?
Making a callback.
You're right. But the rest of the verse says, far is it Ezrati, my help, from my shagati or shagagti? Shagati meaning my roar or my cry, and shagagti meaning my transgression. Well, I mean, there's a theological problem for Christians sticking with the Septuagint, which says my transgression.
So I could get behind that. Maybe I see the continued tradition of callbacks for short scripture references. I see that tradition continued in the Orthodox Church in like a concentric circle. So in the tighter circles that are more theologically sound, more scripturally focused, like you see that tradition continue on.
Yeah, and so like Septuagint primacy versus Masoretic text primacy, it's important. It's not nothing.
I wouldn't say it's nothing, but it does have it to me. It has the air of a left hemispheric argument to it.
It does, but and this goes back to my thing of let's not. Yes, I agree. Left being too left hemisphere prominent or propositional tyranny is a bad thing, but that doesn't mean I want to take half my brain out my head or completely get rid of the importance of propositions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. In their right place, in the right way.
Right. Yeah. And when the question becomes, is modern Judaism what Jesus taught? Any two things are different and alike in an infinite number of ways. As long as they are two different things, they are not identical to each other. They are alike and different in an infinite number of ways. The question is, which ways are relevant? And yes, this is a provocative way of saying it, but I seriously do believe that if you define Christian as someone who follows the teachings of Jesus, the only Christians I know are Orthodox Jews.
So I'm going to slightly redirect, but we can keep going down that road if you want. What I see from the resurgence from the Protestants who are effectively reasserting control right now, right? I think you're right. I think that things like the Dead Sea Scrolls are a weird come to Jesus moment, and that you've got larger Western Christianity who does have like serious theological problems, not just from primacy of the Septuagint or something, but through a long lineage of problems and issues. and they're in the middle of grappling like that, grappling with that, and the fruits of that got so bad, that kids have been cutting off their genitals basically, right? And so they're like, okay, we have to reconcile this, but they're not doing they're not having like a real serious come to Jesus moment, so to say, as much as they're first shoring up what's left of Western commonality, right? Of what, even if they don't really understand what they agree on or why, but they know what they're not, and they know what they're not trying to be, with some of the more extreme examples of fruits from rebellious behavior that we've seen in recent years. Does that make sense?
I want to understand what you're saying, because that was a surprising thing for you to say. So when you said Protestants are reasserting control, what do you mean by that?
I mean, the longest standing Trump supporters, or the vast majority of them that at least I've been aware of, are a low church Protestant tradition, or really, really close in proximity to it, right? And so when I go home, to the rural areas and the rural churches, and you think about these like Trump churches kind of thing, they've been dyed in the wool for the better part of 10 years, right? And so there has been a bargain made with more of a high church tradition, some of the more traditional Catholics. So you could think of like literally what you see with Vance and Trump, and a bargain, right, to move forward, because they both agree on what they're not.
So I really feel like it's actually, I mean, the term we use for Protestantism is, and let me say it one more time, even though I try to say it so many times that people should be tired of me saying it. When we talk about Protestantism, we talk about that which continues to be unique after a Reformation, which 80% of the things in the Protestant Reformation, in fact, overtook every other religion. And I see much of the impact of the Protestant Reformation, even in Orthodox Judaism, right?
Yeah.
So when we say Protestantism, we don't mean let's go back to 1400, where most people who are being silly will, right? We don't really have a good word for the opposite of Protestantism, or a backlash for what we call Protestantism. I can try to give you words for it, which I have. For example, I've called it post-nominalist Neoplatonism or post-Platonism, right? And I do believe we are part of something which I would very happily call post-Platonism, which is a backlash to what we refer to as Protestantism.
That's good.
I think that is what's insurgent, really, more than resurgent, but maybe resurgent. But that is what I believe you're seeing in the MAGA churches, partially because I think it's in the most low church of the Protestant churches, because they are the least that are dyed in the wool Protestant. They don't have a Reformed theology, and they are being influenced by this successor ideology, whatever you want to call it.
So Tucker was talking to the the chosen Jesus guy, Jonathan something. I don't remember.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Well, part of their conversation, they were talking about fasting, and Tucker started to and they went in deep talking about fasting in the different traditions.
PVK mentioned that. Yeah, I didn't see the actual clip.
Well, when they were doing that, part of what Tucker was trying to slyly push a little hypothesis out there, which was like, okay, we've affected, like, what you see in broader Western Christianity is a lack of what you see, that say, with Middle Eastern Christians and the way that they fast. Like that basically doesn't exist in the West. Nothing that feels even close to it, really. And he was correlating that with the obeseness that you see, like the indulgence in gluttony, right? And some of the other things that kind of go along with it. The implication being this lack of fasting and capacity to deny self, or deny urges, deny passions. That's a prevalent thing in the Christian West abroad, which leaves that entire people vulnerable to those passions. And that's exactly what we see playing out.
Yeah. I mean, but I have to say, I mean, unless you're a dedicated sausage eater, right? Which only the actual Reform are, right? They're like, yes, on Fridays we're going to eat sausage just because we're not Catholics, right? That's when, and that's why I think it's in some ways the people, for example, David French is always talking about, like, it's the people who were the least Christians who were pro-Trump, but now, like, it seems the entire church is turning pro-Trump. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think it's true. I think part of that is that Protestantism, like, I think the advent of the internet is in fact causing changes which can be analogous to the printing press.
Yes.
And I think now we are having a true counter-reformation.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, but, and I think you were pointing at it with pointing at the Neoplatonic tradition and the Protestants' relationality to it. And I think that you're pointing at that as the what makes it so bad. Oh, there's a Pete.
There is Pete.
Sorry to interrupt you guys.
Quite all right. It's your show.
Yeah, and I think so. I'll just pop on just to say this really quick. And I'm sorry, Michael, sort of hitting you midstream. I don't think that your channel is the right place. That's why I don't come on to your live streams. I invited you to the Discord group so that we could continue conversation. I think having more people in this conversation is a good thing. And you have to watch the video before you call it stupid.
I did.
So
the first one I did.
So okay. So I'm a little behind. I didn't watch everything. I caught up a little bit. I was hoping for more, to be honest with you. It's like, Pete's obviously stupid. I don't remember what he said. And then you create in your mind a version of who I am that's not actually, you're not really listening to me. So
Pete,
I would just encourage you.
Was the point that Jew and Judean is somehow two different concepts?
And if you watch the video, I break it down very.
Yeah, I've heard of positive Christianity.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I know.
Again, you're making a version of me that doesn't exist. I don't know what positive Christianity is.
As I explained, yeah, you don't know enough to know what you don't know.
Okay, so I'm just reading the Bible.
Exactly.
Here, I'll be right back. I'm not reading. So this is a book. This is one book you could read. Eisler. I know that Yosef was not a fan of him, but I don't know what positive Christianity is. The Greek word and the Hebrew word imply geographical location, and it's nuanced. And I realize that nuance is difficult But that's why I
Is
did.
it?
That's why I did a hour-long live stream and a video dealing with the nuance of this question.
Could
So
you pull out your Bible for me and look at Esther verse
yes,
chapter
So-
8 verse 7?
and I deal with this in the video. If you watched it, I look at this specific verse.
Right.
So
So explain to me what it means mityahadim.
is the tribe of Benjamin in the southern kingdom of Judah?
No.
Looks like it's in the southern kingdom of Judah.
It's so these people who are becoming Jews are not becoming members of Judah.
Again, yeah, I understand that. What geographical location are we talking about? And what kingdom are we talking about?
We're talking about people in Iran, in Paras, in Persia.
Who are going to where?
Nowhere. These are people who live in Shushan,
Okay,
in Persia.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with geography. You are creating anachronistic silliness.
No, that's the problem. And anachronism is the problem.
Correct. This
So,
idea of a
Right.
Jewish religion.
I'm gonna go have lunch. I'm gonna go have dinner
fun.
with my family. But
Have fun. But an idea of a Jewish religion which is separated from the Judites is an anachronism that came from positive Christians.
Okay, again, I don't know what you're. You keep
Look it up.
I don't really want to. I'm not interested in that. I will continue to read my Bible. I will look at the language being used, and then I will ask questions. And the word that the Bible is using, that is translated Jew in the New Testament, and if you watch the video, we go into this. It is indicative of a geographical location, i.e., Judah, i.e., the southern kingdom of Judah, where Jerusalem is, where the center of worship is, where the religious life of the people existed.
These are people living in the kingdom of Persia.
I'm talking about in the New Testament when Jesus is doing ministry.
Right. Which included many people who were not, the Judaizers were in Corinth.
So,
yeah. Go eat with your family because we can actually have this conversation and we can have it on your channel if you want.
No, I don't think my channel is a good place either.
Yeah,
that's why I created a Discord server. That's why I created a group for you to come in and talk and for us to find a third location. You didn't want to do that. You immediately left the Discord server, the Discord group.
Because invited
we're
me
too stupid
right
for you,
after
Jacob.
you made
We're too
this
stupid
video.
for you.
Yeah, no. What you were saying is definitely too stupid. I would not have responded. It's been months. I only responded because you goaded me into it.
Because I created a really hilarious meme.
Because you goaded me into it.
Yeah. Brave space ecumenicism or whatever you said, right?
I don't like making attack videos, Pete.
Well, this certainly isn't one. And I think David had a good question. I mean, again, man, I would just suggest you actually watch the video.
I did months ago.
Yeah. Why are you bringing up stuff that I addressed in that video and bringing it up as though I have said a thing that I didn't say? Did I misstate? Yeah, you completely miscategorized my position.
I clearly said, and if this is a misstatement, please correct me. I clearly said you make a distinction between Judean and Jew, which you believe actually is a thing.
Which helps clear up the anachronistic problem that we're having.
And I would say it's the opposite. It's actually creating an anachronism.
So
So I didn't mistake what you said.
The
What
term
you said.
Jew,
Yeah.
the term Jew
Yes.
today
Yes.
means the same thing it did in the first century.
The same as
If not,
better
then
than
it's
better
anachronistic.
than Judean. Yes. Better than Judean. Yes. And
How
I think
so?
I think anytime you translate words in your Bible, obviously I don't think the New Testament is inspired text, so you can do whatever you want. But at least in my Bible, God uses words very specifically. And if God decides to use the same word in two different verses, I don't see any reason to, sometimes I have to translate it differently for people who don't know enough to read it in the original language. But I always make clear when the same word is used, because God decided to use the same word for a reason.
Can I just pop in with this?
Modern Jews the same as first century Jews?
Modern Jews are more like first century Jews and first century Christians than modern Christians are.
And how is the word Judean not accurate to encompass
it's
the
a complete
cultural and religious life of the southern kingdom,
because
the people around Jerusalem?
It makes it sound like Jesus the Galilean, and this is what positive Christianity emphasized, was somehow different from the Judeans. And no, Judaism in Galilee was the same as it was in Jerusalem.
So how is using
Jesus
the word
went
Judean,
to synagogue. Jesus went to synagogue every Sabbath.
Okay, and I addressed that in the video. He is there, but he is clearly not viewed as being one of them.
That's completely false. You are creating an impression because you hate Jesus.
See, okay, so Jacob, right there, man.
Yeah? You hate Jesus.
And you say that because why?
Because I believe it. Because I believe it.
Why do you believe that?
Because when you see something that is of Jesus that doesn't match what you want it to be, you are willing to change it.
I am so glad you are concerned that people have an accurate view of Jesus.
Well, just a wild third party. Just real quick.
The problem that might be having is that you want people to have your view of Jesus.
No, I actually want people to have an accurate view of Jesus.
He said it was my dream. Go ahead, Michael.
So I don't know if this is helpful, but from the Orthodox tradition, one of the things that Father Stephen, who's pretty deep in on these things, he would point out that Jesus didn't embed himself in the Essene community, didn't embed himself necessarily with the Sadducees. Like not only was he deeply embedded within Jewish culture, let's say, within the broader Roman Empire, but specifically within the Pharisaic tradition. And you go, these people have the right temple, they have the right traditions, they have the right scripture, but they're hypocrites. I don't know if that's helpful, but it feels like it's relevant.
So they have the right scripture. I think I missed what you were saying.
So Jesus says the Pharisees and the scribes sit in the seat of Moses. Merely don't do as they do, for they do not live up to what they say. And he says things like, your righteousness must exceed those of even the Pharisees, because when you actually study Jesus and you learn more about Jesus, you learn that Jesus was teaching Judaism.
What do you mean by Judaism?
Judaism as in Judaism.
First century Judaism.
Well, so what?
First century Judaism and modern Judaism.
Not just biblical teaching.
The Orthodox clarification. Orthodox clarification.
That's what I mean by Judaism.
That we might make there, like from the Christian Orthodox perspective, is Jesus is walking around, and there's the idea that some who are in tune with Christ, with Messiah, would be able to recognize him, but it had grown dark. And so most would not see the Son of Man, even if he was right in front of their face. But we do find these examples where that did happen. And so the highest participation and being as Israel is as much as you are obedient to Messiah.
I think he's trying to help you understand what I mean. I don't know if he's...
Why is the term Judean a problem?
Because it creates a divorce between Jews and...
What do you mean by
Jesus?
It creates a divorce between Jews and Jesus, and you have a problem with that.
Yes.
You want Jesus to be a Jew.
Jesus is a Jew.
And you want him to celebrate the same things that you celebrate.
I don't want him to. I see that he did. He celebrated Hanukkah, unlike you.
And so when he is critical of the religious leaders of his day,
he's being Jewish.
And so anyone that follows the religious leaders of Jesus's day would be not Jewish.
What?
Well, so we would say
that's you not understanding how Judaism functions.
We would say those traditions did continue. Paul continues to be a Pharisee throughout his life, but what happens in the first few centuries there is like they still continue to participate on Saturday, but then they reserve Sunday as the highest day above it.
Let me try to clarify this in a way. Would you say that when the prophet, now I'm forgetting, it was Samuel, right, went to David and criticized him, like, would you say that he was no longer Jewish? Or David was no longer Jewish? Or are both of them still Jewish?
See, that's the problem. I think that the term is too vague. That's my problem.
Well, take it up with God. He decided to use it.
We have that same problem with Christian now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there are similar problems with the word Christian. Yes, absolutely.
So stop calling people Christians.
No. I just think that there needs to be nuanced conversation.
There's times when you are adding nuance to a conversation, and there's times when by supposedly adding to nuance to a conversation, you are creating confusion.
So I would just suggest you go back to your live stream and say, this video is so stupid. It's so stupid. I don't even want to respond to it. I don't remember what it was. Oh, and there was this other video that's clearly so stupid. I didn't watch it yet, but it's clearly so stupid. So add nuance. Don't add vitriol. Add nuance.
There's a problem with me making it sound like I'm responding to something that deserves a response.
Okay. If you don't feel like it deserves a response, then don't, one, call people who disagree with you stupid. Don't say this.
What if they are?
I mean, I guess it's your world, man. You can call people stupid if you want to.
Foolishness is foolishness.
I don't think it helps your point. If you want to have conversation,
rhetoric works. You know rhetoric works. That's why you use it.
Okay.
Rhetoric works. That's why you use it.
Okay.
And I'm using it.
You're not engaging with the substance.
Oh, I actually did also. I used both rhetoric and I did engage with the substance. I did both.
Okay. Where?
Because
I addressed.
Did you not notice my whole thing with no? It's one word. Jew, Judean. No, there's no distinction to be made.
There is distinction to be made.
So that's the substance.
Okay.
And
so
calling you stupid is part of the rhetoric.
Okay. So do words change their meaning over time?
Yes, that's why.
So the word
that's why we
Jew.
don't translate our Bible.
So the word Jew from 2,000 years ago, you're not willing to accept the possibility that that word means something different today than it did 2,000 years ago. And that the term Judean is another term that you can use to prevent the problem of anachronism.
To clarify, definitely words change meaning. So the word Christian today means something very different than what it meant 2,000 years ago. So if you are talking about Christian as in people who were like Paul and the apostles, then really you should just use the word Jew as we understand it today, because they were living as Jews, not like what we think of as Christian, which I would just translate as idolater. So let's use the word idolater for people like you and the word Jew for the apostles.
I think this problem was happening first century. That's the thing.
Yeah,
like,
no, absolutely.
I actually
this whole book is written on the book of Romans, which is dealing with this question.
I actually don't, and this is part of Father Stephen's book.
Okay.
In calling Paul a Pharisee, it really is part of the Lutheran attempt to reconstruct what the discussion was back then. The fact is that a lot of the people that Jesus was fighting against were destroyed 2,000 years ago.
Right.
The Sadducees are no longer with us.
Yeah.
Right.
And frankly, even a lot of the people within the Pharisaic tradition that there was arguments about, and this was one of the most surprising things. So, for example, there's the whole debate over whether or not you can heal on the Sabbath, right? This was an active debate during the time of the Hasmoneans. We have records. It was an active debate within Judaism, right? And I believe it's the book of John says it was the Pharisees who didn't believe you could heal on the Sabbath. Father Stephen has reasons other than the book of John simply was written by somebody who didn't know anything about Judaism at the time, and it's just factually incorrect. He has an explanation for that obvious mistake in it, but the fact is, Pharisaic Judaism, like to this day, part of our Friday night liturgy says you extinguish a candle so a sick person can sleep. That's part of our liturgy.
Jacob, so
Okay.
the Pharisees that became Messiah-ins, do you feel like that there was controversy at the time on whether those people continued to be Pharisees and or Jews?
Okay, so it's funny that this is still a continuing thing. The fact is, whether or not people believed Jesus was the Messiah, like in Acts 5, Gamliel says, guys, do we actually care? And the answer was, no, we actually don't.
Well, kind of. I mean, he's like, it'll die off if it's going to die off.
And it did. That's what I mean.
Died off?
Yes.
Obviously, let's say Father Stephen wouldn't agree with that, right? And I take his position.
I know you take his position, but
I don't understand what you mean by. Maybe I misunderstood you, Jacob. You mean Christianity died off?
Yes.
The 2 billion people today on Earth, what are they?
They're not Christians like the apostles in Acts 5.
Okay.
Those were Jews.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't like they were eating pork and they went to the Sanhedrin and and breaking the Sabbath, and the Sanhedrin was like,
according to the Jewish tradition.
Just let them. No. According to Acts 5. Uh-huh. I mean, you're talking about the apostles being taken in by the Sanhedrin, and Gamliel says, right? No, let them go. They just think that Jesus is the Messiah. That's fine. And that's what the Sanhedrin says. But those people are gone because
kind of like
Christians murdered them.
Say that again. Those people are gone because what?
Because the idolaters, I'll use the correct term. So we'll call modern Christians idolaters. The idolaters murdered the Christians.
I wouldn't call modern Christians idolaters. So
well,
this is
you
going to get
want
confusing.
you want me to use a neologism. What word do you want to use for modern Christians?
Well, we might say that that non-Messiah-ins Pharisees killed Pharisees.
No. Come on. At Nicaea, when they turned their back on the Jews, or at any of the many councils where they said, if you keep on doing the Jewish things that you were doing, because you can't be a Christian and a Jew at the same time, right? What do you call these? I would call them Pauline Christians. Maybe we can call them Nicene Christians. But what do you call these Christians who said, you must eat pork? You must eat pork. What do you call them? Should we call them pig Christians? Let's call them pig Christians.
Well, I think Father Stephen's right when he points out like the circumcision that Paul gives is a way to understand like, no, you can continue to be Jewish, keep Torah, do these things this way, right, and follow Christ, and Jesus is Christ incarnate, died on a cross.
That's definitely what Acts says. I mean, especially, I would say Acts 15, right, and then Acts 21.
So
very clearly,
any
right?
contradiction to that is someone not being a faithful Messiah.
Well, you can call them whatever you want. Let's call them pig Christians. Pig Christians are who they are.
Well, yeah. I mean, rebellion against the way is rebellion against the way.
But now we're creating distinctions between like what actually was 2,000 years ago, which is Christians who thought that somebody who's zealous for the law is a good thing, see Acts 21, versus modern Protestants who will say, no, James was wrong. And what's even
modern Protestants don't say that.
Actually, many of them
do.
You
can make up these people. You can make them up and then argue with them. But
no. If you want me to find you,
that's what I do.
Hold on, vocab Malone.
It's your channel, so you can argue with straw man if you want to. But
vocab Malone is a real person. He came on my channel and said, "You can look him up. He has a pretty big channel, and you would count him as a Protestant." He said James went off. That's what he called it.
Yes. So you can
and
reference
Paul went off in
certain Protestants who might have that in their theology, but when you say,
so that's what
this is what Protestantism teaches, you are creating a straw man. We would say James is part of the canon, and so it might be
impossible to say anything about all Protestants. And
then stop making that. Protestants do this. You just did that, and then you say it's impossible to do it.
Jacob is pointing at something that I think matters, though, right? Like,
you use words to mean things. Say that, Michael.
So I think that Jacob is pointing at something that matters, though, and I mean maybe it's like pointing at Luther a little heavy, but I think that's fair to point at him, which is this notion of breaking away from the old. We got to dispose of the old, right? And now there's a new thing birthed, and from the Orthodox position, it's like, no, there's you keep all that along and reorient, right, and redeem it, and whatever was corrupted, right, must like be baptized.
I mean, Michael, there's a reason why I can have my discussions with Father Stephen, and they work a lot better than any discussions I've tried to have with Pete. And frankly, I would say that has to do with the fact that Father Stephen actually knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, Father Stephen is smart. He certainly looks at it from a different perspective. I just think that you create for yourself people who you don't agree with, and then you make them in your mind foolish, and then you argue with them, but that's not who they are. And I think it would benefit you to listen to other people, even people that you might think are foolish. There's certainly things that you say that I really don't understand, but that's not because I'm stupid, Jacob.
I disagree.
It's possible that it's because you're not clear sometimes.
That does happen, but generally I have tried to explain things to you many, many times.
No, you
And
haven't.
yes, I have.
No, because we have yet to actually have a conversation.
Would you like me to make our DMs from Twitter public? I can.
You can, if you would like to. That's fine.
I have definitely tried to explain things to you in many different ways, but I am giving you the benefit of the doubt by saying you're just too dumb to get it.
Why? Why do you phrase it that way?
Because
why is that your approach?
Because it's better than what you dislike, what you would dislike more, which is you just hate Jesus.
And why do you say that?
Because I believe it's true.
Why do you believe that that's true?
Well, so what Jacob's pointing at is something like instead of being actively rebellious because you know better, Jacob is positing that that you don't necessarily know better because there's certain things that have been baked in foundationally.
Your behavior is as one who does not take rebuke. That's your behavior.
You don't know who I am, Jacob. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, I only know.
We have interacted very little. We have interacted very little, and I disagree with you. That's not a rebuke, Jacob. I disagree with you because I don't think that you're right.
I'm rebuking you.
Yes, you think you're rebuking me.
Yes,
but it's just me disagreeing with you. People who disagree with Jacob it's okay. It's okay to disagree with Jacob.
True.
So Jacob,
it's not a rebuke, Jacob. It's not a rebuke because you're not always right.
Jacob's a shotgun fire, right? He's got a shotgun fire where it's a rebuke of Protestantism en masse, and you're getting hit by that.
No. It's not just that. I mean, this stream was very much.
Oh well, yeah, sure.
This stream was very much. Pete says stupid things, which I have tried to help him with.
What stupid things?
For example, calling Jesus not a Jew.
A Judean, which he was. I didn't say he wasn't a Jew. I said he's a Judean. And to make that distinction frees us from an anachronistic problem.
No, what that does is...
No, listen to my words. Don't pretend like you think you know who I am or what I'm saying.
Pete,
I said Jesus is a Judean. What is the problem with calling Jesus a Judean?
It divorces him from Judaism.
And the problem with that is what?
Okay, see, now we're repeating.
Well, I guess no. We actually have to go back.
Things that you can go back in this video. Pete.
What do you mean by? Do you mean modern Judaism?
Yes.
Okay, then he needs to be divorced from modern Judaism.
You're wrong.
Okay.
He was deeply embedded in it.
He was embedded in a Jew. He was embedded in a religious culture, of course, 2,000 years ago. Where is that religious culture today?
Yeah. So
it's within a synagogue.
Well,
is it?
There's a body and there's parts, right? And those parts are distinctive, right? Now we talk about like you take the Gentiles and they're getting grafted onto the main branch, right? And Christ is the main branch, right? Now, rebelliousness to whatever degree that it exists, right? It becomes a withered away branch that must, by necessity, die and burn off, right? Now, can we see the same? Like again, and Jacob, just bear with me for a second. Like from a Christian perspective, does rabbinic Judaism look like Pharisaic Judaism back then? There's attributes that definitely line up. There's plenty of it. We know that there's direct lineage. They uphold a lot of the same things. We see a lot of the same fruits as far as we're concerned. And what we would say, right, like when Father Stephen goes, yeah, we're the real Noahides, right? He's talking about a continuity through time, right, of those who would obey and do and be Israel. That's the assertion.
Right. Look, there are different ways. There's different ways of viewing the facts, and people disagree on my channel all the time. I have people on my channel who disagree with me constantly. I don't call all of them stupid. I just call the stupid ones stupid. Dawn says, I'm not Jewish and don't believe Christianity is idolatry, but I'm disturbed by Christians who push so hard to separate Jesus from Judaism. What is the real motive here? For some people, Kim Iverson, it's a hatred of Jews. For some people, I would say Pete, it's a hatred of Jesus. For other people, it's just they don't know any better.
What version of Judaism are we trying to unite Jesus to?
He is.
He is Israel.
He is the law.
He is Israel.
It's
not Judaism.
Yeah. The body that is obedient to him is Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he is Israel. He is the Son of God.
Yeah.
Let me find. So I'm not trying. Let me say this, and I'm sorry. I do have to go. There's a difference between trying to separate Jesus from Judaism and trying to ask for clarification on that. I'm not going to try to see. I think the problem is Jesus is greater than all of this. So was he born into a Jewish culture, a first century Jewish religious culture? Yes, he certainly was. Was he Judean in the geographical sense? Yes, he was. And yet he is, in my view, he can't be that because he created this whole world.
It's a both and thing.
So yeah, right. So but to try to make Judaism the higher order of things and that Jesus is subservient to Judaism would be a problem.
Well, Pete,
so that's why we have to make what part of Jesus, what part of Jesus are we worried would be dislocated from this idea of Judaism?
It's both.
Like, what is it about Jesus
okay.
that needs to be united to this idea?
I understand Pete has to go, and anytime you want to go, you can go. But I'm going to read from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 4. And Jesus returned in the power of the Spirit into Galilee, and there went out a fame of him through all the regions round about. And he taught in their synagogues, being glorified of all. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day, not on Sunday, on the Sabbath day, and stood up to read. Now, Christians don't understand what that means because they don't understand what it means to get an aliyah, but I do. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah, that being the Haftarah that they decided to read. And when he opened the book, he found the place where it was written, the Spirit of the Lord, etc., etc., etc. A pig Christian has no capacity to understand what those words mean.
No, hold on though. And again, if you watch the video, I covered this passage.
I did watch the video 2 months ago.
You stopped short of the point that actually needs to be made, which is though Jesus participates in the Jewish religious structure of his day, he is clearly above it because he takes control of that moment in that synagogue, and it becomes about him and not the religious structure that he was operating in.
So you might look at this in like fully God, fully man kind of way, right? In that, because he's fully full Messiah is of course above it and contains it and is the law, right? But as fully man, he's deeply embedded in it. His genealogy is there, but there's also a both and there where he's grafted in, right? Of like, here's this pagan lineage that anyone can map their genealogy, into this tree. He contains all things, right? So it's a both and thing that's going on, but the particular time in the particular place to the particular people matters.
Absolutely. And I think when we simply use the word Jew with all of its modern connotation, we actually strip that particular time and that particular region and the particular religious structure that was going on. We lose that. That's the anachronistic problem that we're coming into contact with. That's why I made the video.
So I might say that because of how much is lost within Protestant tradition and even a rejection of tradition, that's why it feels that way. That's why
it feels what way.
John chapter 5. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, or as Pete would rather put it, Judeans.
It's the word Judeos, if you would like to just...
Doesn't matter.
It does matter.
What should be clear is a pig Christian has no idea what that is.
Okay, well, so... No. So someone who wants to go back to the original language that it was written in doesn't have any idea what that is. Someone who would rather take a modern English translation of that word. So you're being more authentic here rather than the person going back to the original language?
You're not going back to the original language.
That was Greek, and you said it didn't matter that it was in Greek and that the Greek term doesn't matter.
Use the Greek term. How do you know what the festivals of the Judaios is? Yeah. How do you know?
How do I know?
Yes.
What's the point of that?
What are the festivals of the Judaios?
What? Okay, so I don't have.
Exactly. You don't.
No,
You're a pig Christian.
The problem,
you don't know.
Okay. So you're not answering my question. You want to go off on some other tangent because you want to prove some other point. The point is Jacob's right, Pete's wrong. Jacob's smart, Pete's stupid. Jacob loves Jesus. Great. We arrived at that. Jacob loves Jesus and wants everybody to love Jesus.
I think Jacob sees it as related.
Which is great, but you're not answering the question. So you want to use the term Jew, and I push on that, and I say you could use the Greek word, which is there, which is the word Judeos, and you say that doesn't matter. It does matter. That's precisely the point.
The word Judeos you're
has much broader
in
connotation.
Order for Christians not to understand as well as they would if you just use the word Jew.
Say that again.
You are using the word Judeos or the word Judean because you want Christians not to understand as well as they would if you use the word Jew.
No, I think it recaptures the proper context of the date and time and region.
I think
because the modern term is too vague to be any help for us.
No, the modern term is exactly not vague enough for you to understand that I am a continuation of the people of Jesus and you are not.
Well, so we might say that what Jesus's criticism is that the people that he was embedded in had become rebellious and fallen away from Messiah.
Yeah, I mean, read the Hebrew Bible.
The Hebrew Bible is something you completely don't understand.
Clearly.
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 Clearly. Yes.
Clearly.
Clearly.
Clearly. Because they always got it right, Jacob.
No. I'm sorry you're too dumb.
Then why
to get
is it? Then why is it a problem that Jesus
sorry
would come
you're
and
too
rebuke
dumb
people
to
who
get
have
it.
fallen away?
No, there's no problem.
Well, but he also he rebuked it, but he also acknowledged what was good. So like,
Yeah, of course.
Like, here's the temple. This is good. Here's the scripture. This is good. Like, here's all these good pieces, and then he rebukes the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. So maybe Jacob or someone like Jacob would create the straw man that says, "Oh, you Protestants, you don't read the prophets or the law, and you don't like the law." And I don't even think that was in our DMs, but Jacob says, "I hate Moses," right? Oh, how could I know who Jesus is because I hate Moses? I don't hate Moses. I love Moses. The law is great, Jacob. The law is great. The thing is, if you don't know Jesus, then you don't know the law. I just look at it from the other side.
Yeah. So I mean, the llama.
Yeah, and we don't need to go necessarily down that, but it's just it is an unfortunate. It is unfortunate when what I want to do is actually honor the people that are in that setting 2,000 years ago. I want to honor their religion, their customs, their history, their language, and I don't want to dishonor modern people. We want to preserve both. And so language is important, and just using the same word, Jew, for all of that is simply too vague. It does not preserve the history or the nuance.
From now on, to talk about modern Christians, I'll just refer to pig Christians. How's that?
So in the Jewish synagogues and in Orthodox.
No. How do you feel about being called a pig Christian, Pete?
I don't feel anything, Jacob. It's just you. You're just using words. I don't feel like, again, I sort of expect more, but this is what I get. So.
Seems like you're feeling something.
Okay, well,
it feels unfortunate. I mean, I don't know you. I don't know you, but there is a small part of me that feels bad for you.
It is very unfortunate when you try to divorce Jesus from modern Jews.
I don't feel that that's unfortunate at all.
I mean,
maybe. So if you feel okay, so we could go the other way. If you feel that is unfortunate, then modern Jews should really discover who Jesus is, and that would be awesome.
Oh, I've been saying that a lot.
Yeah.
So. Jacob, the sense that I get from part of what you're trying to communicate, though, is just how deeply disconnected, and like through tragedy, largely, the Protestants are from that tradition, right? Whereas you can see. Right, like if you're embedded in a Jewish synagogue and its festivals and its life cycle, right? If you're embedded in that, and I could say the same things similarly within the Orthodox Church, like those things make sense in context because you're it's an embedded participation.
A clear message of my channel since the very beginning. Since my first time speaking with Paul Vanderklay, which is you can look on the list, this was 4 years ago, is how sad I am that Christians do not know enough about Judaism to understand their own Bible or to know anything about Jesus.
Which is a critique on the West specifically.
It's a critique on Christianity in total.
Maybe, but you would have a hard time making that case against the Russians.
I see. This is part of the discussion that Father Stephen and I have.
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile having that discussion with Father Stephen because he actually knows what he's talking about.
Yes, I agree.
And this is how our conversation started, because when I talk with Father Stephen about it, right, he comes from a defensible position that, like, if you go back to my first discussion with him, The way he found my channel was somebody asked me about him going on gospel simplicity, and I explained why Father Stephen may believe the things that he said and why he's wrong. And Father Stephen said, hey, that's a pretty nice level of nuance. And I try to have that level of nuance here. Then I get bombarded with stupidity like Pete's videos.
I think the difference between Father Stephen DeYoung and me is that you built your relationship with Father Stephen DeYoung off of your point of commonality, and you built your relationship with me off of where we disagree. That doesn't mean I'll say that again. It doesn't mean that I'm stupid, Jacob. It means that I disagree with you.
I have had many Protestant pastors on here who I disagree with vehemently. Aaron Vriesman, Cedric Parcells, Lloyd Helmstreet. They just know a lot more than you do, and they're not as obstinate and
see. Okay, so hold on. Sorry, Michael. I don't agree with you.
I know.
That does so, and so you look at that and you go, Pete, he's so stupid and obstinate.
No, that's not. It's not true.
And I just
anybody who's watched enough of my channel knows I disagree with all kinds of people. I call
and the people that
stupid
to like are the people that tolerate your attitude, your BS. I just call it BS.
It's not it.
I think that
You're just wrong.
Pete, one thing worth considering in Jacob and Father Stephen's relationship.
I'm sorry, say again.
Part of something to consider on why Jacob and Father Stephen's relationship, what it was built off of. I might argue that it wasn't about headspace agreeing as much as shared participation in a life cycle that's recognizable to each other, and so it's actually the embodied reality part. So and that is distinct from the what we're pointing at is sort of being like a Gnostic turn that happens with Protestantism of a secret, sacred self-knowledge-y thing rather than embedded. It's like scripture, temple, cycles.
I really don't think that's it, Michael. I'll tell you why. Because, yes, I have been able to. Look, I made Kiddush for Father Stephen. We had a great Friday night Kiddush together, and that was something that I don't think I could ever share with Paul Vanderklay or Cedric Parcells or Lloyd Helmstreet because they're Protestants, right? Or Aaron Vriesman. I can have a discussion with people like them because they're willing to understand what I'm saying. They're willing to update their priors, and they're willing to think about what they're saying. Unlike
you want to be heard.
Oh yes.
I don't think it's in the head, Jacob. I think it's because part of your recognition with each other is that you're embedded in cultures and cultured in things that have like a lot of Venn diagram overlap, so to say.
But no, I mean, look, any two things are different and alike in an infinite number of ways. The question becomes, when you talk to someone else, can you understand what they're saying? And when there is a disagreement, can you understand what the process of that disagreement is? And I pretty much think I know why my disagreement with Pete is unlike my disagreement with other people. Pete is not able or willing to learn.
I don't know who you're talking about, but I would struggle to have conversation with that person as well.
Yeah, so that if that's not the case, okay, like if we were going to give Pete the benefit of the doubt there, then it's not a lack of that as much as.
Look, Michael, it's not like it's my first conversation with Pete.
I know. But I do think that there's a huge chasm when you don't live in a way that's similar.
Well, I think at least a part of it is the Protestant ethos, and that's why I called this "Why is Protestant theology so bad?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because it is part of the Protestant ethos of saying, "Hey, I'm looking at my Bible. This is what I see in my Bible. Therefore, that's what the Bible must say." Whereas any
Yeah.
more intelligent ethos would be willing to say, "Hey, maybe I am misunderstanding my Bible because the Bible is difficult to understand, and there are other people, and they can help me better understand what's in my Bible."
Yeah, and that was something that you said at the beginning of the stream that I would just again disagree with. I guess maybe it's not super helpful, but that's a caricature of Protestantism that doesn't exist. Not in my world. Sure, you point to a Protestant person or maybe even a group of Protestant people who treat the Bible that way, but the Bible is meant to be in community. It comes out of a community. It lives in a community. It informs that community. So as much as I can approach the Bible just as like a person sitting on my couch reading the Bible, it's not, Protestantism does not dislocate the Bible from community. That would be an inaccurate caricature of Protestantism.
Well, so what we might say is that you take scripture, right, and then put it in different types of cultures, right, and what happens is going to be different, right? But that scripture embedded in a tradition where it is attached liturgically with that life cycle and embedded in how it was brought together, right? It's going to have a different impact, where it's not to say that it can't have good impact in a different structure, but that there is like a diminishing returns problem.
Have you listened to Paul's thoughts on the preaching of the word, the liturgy, and the Eucharist?
Probably.
The three elements, right? So you see this in Protestantism, Orthodox, and Catholicism. And I do think like there is something to that, but I also think there's something gleaned from the fact that common people can just approach the Bible. And that's one of the reasons why it's important to remember that the New Testament is written in a common language, a Koine Greek. That Greek was just for every person, and you can just approach it. The Word of God is not concealed. It's not hidden. It's not, I mean, it's certainly mysterious, but I mean, as a kid, you can approach the Bible. You can read the words.
So we might
but
say,
also as a 90-year-old person who has studied for their whole lifetime, right?
That's a very interesting thing, because as Father Stephen has said multiple times, and I don't know enough Greek to say the same, but he has said this, and Yosef knows more Greek than I do. He's also said the same. It's Koine Greek, or New Testament Greek, is to Greek as Yiddish is to German, meaning it's a Jewish language that you can't understand without knowing Hebrew.
Yes. Yeah. And so like, and scripture, we might attest that bears witness to the word of God that is the Son, the second power in heaven, right? Scripture bears witness to that and is created as a result of the word of God who is above, right? So then interpretation of these things is difficult, but at that time when this is written, this is an anomaly. This is an anomaly of high capacity to read broadly. This is unique. This usually isn't the case, which is why even shortly afterwards, art and iconography takes such a prominent place, because there's so many that are illiterate and it's not commonly approachable of any language because most people can't read. And the time that we live right now is also an exception to that rule.
Yeah. And I wouldn't disagree with that. The only thing I would add would be the oral tradition and the stories and the liturgy, the prayer. Like, again, like the words are written, and so there's a literacy that is required there, but they're not just written, they're spoken, and that's key, right? So and even within Protestants, since we're bashing Protestants, it's the preaching of the word.
So we might say,
it's meant to be orated, it's meant to be presented in a community and spoken forth.
so we might say that we are bearing witness to creation as it's unfolded through symbolic reality, right? And that no matter what the language or the marks that are used, that reality as the capacity to even see it by Messiah, right, is an inevitable reality. There is no escaping the Son of Man.
Are we done here? Because I actually do have to go soon.
Yeah, same here. Pete, thanks for hanging in there.
Hey, Michael. Nice to meet you. Yeah, we haven't interacted before. Cool kid. Hey, thanks for hanging out there in the corner.
I will give you the last word, Pete.
Last word. Come hang out in the Discord, or let's find a third channel to host conversation.
Sam would be a good channel.
Sam? Yeah. Sam. I was kind of hoping David would start a channel, or Yosef. But you're right. I think Sam. Maybe we could reach out to Sam. And it wouldn't. I wouldn't want to. I'm not interested in debate. I am interested in conversation.
I don't do debates.
So I agree. So maybe we can reach out to Sam and have further discussion.
I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed, because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry, Reverend. Thank you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian, and I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes that devil's advocate thing too
Isn't there
far.
a proverb that says something like, "Don't answer a fool according to his folly"?
But there's a proverb that says, "Answer a fool according to his folly."
There is. Exactly right. I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah. The